Welcome, everyone. My name is Mike McQueen, and this podcast is called For the Love of Libraries. And our focus is empowering librarians to lead with confidence in the age of AI. I'm so excited to introduce Martha. Actually, Martha, I'm going to have you introduce yourself. Please tell us who you are, a little bit about your background, and any connections to AI, if you can.
Yes, thank you so much, Mike. My name is Martha Kyrillidou, and I am a library consultant. I established QualityMetrics in 2016, and I consult with school, public, and academic libraries. But when people see my name, they associate it a lot with the academic world because I was working for 22 some years at the Association of Research Libraries. I was directing the program that's now known as Research and Analytics. Over the 22 years I was there, it had names from statistics and measurement to assessment to quality metrics.
Hmm.
Um, and a lot of people know me because I co-developed the um, kind of a scale, standardized service quality evaluation survey for libraries known as LiveQual.
Okay.
And by the way, let me take the opportunity to say ARL announced it's running LiveQual for the last year this year, but LiveQual will continue to be available through QualityMetrics. Just wanted to make sure I get it.
Okay. I love
This
that.
line there, yeah.
Well, and I guess I didn't realize that you had that much background with research with ACRL. ACRL, right? Is
ARL. So,
ARL. I'm
I,
so
I,
sorry.
I can't tell you how many times I had to answer the question. And
Oh,
okay, what's ARL and what's ACRL
yes,
and what's the
perfect.
difference?
This is
And I'm
an
like,
educational opportunity here. Can
the
you
difference
explain?
is
And wait, a
is
lot of
the letter
uh,
C.
and see, a lot of librarians that are listening to this probably aren't even familiar with ACRL. So
Yes,
can
and
you kind of
actually,
introduce them both?
well, I mean, I got this question often when I had meetings at ALA, the American
Okay.
Library Association, where I would be inviting people, and I used to manage the survey coordinators for the Association of Research Libraries, and this is ARL.
ARL.
ARL is an
Yes.
institutional based association. It has a relatively small number of institutions as members, 125 some members, but they are the large libraries in the US and Canada. The
Okay.
large academics, the large, the Library of Congress, a bunch of government libraries, the New York Public Library, the Boston Public Library. So there are a handful of non-academic libraries, but the majority of the membership of ARL
Yes.
are these institutions, and they are headquartered in Washington, D.C. A lot of ties to, doing advocacy and lobbying around research libraries, a lot of ties to the AAU, the
And what?
universities, the research universities association, which has even fewer members, 50 members. So kind of the selective topic, the top of the pyramid on the research side.
Okay.
Now, ACRL, the Association of
Yes.
College and Research Libraries, is a division of ALA where academic librarians get professional development. They have a great conference every 2 years. Um, and high peer reviewed conference, very well known in the field. The College and Research Libraries News is one of their newsletters, but also they have the College and Research Libraries Journal, where a lot of good research gets published. And I was working for ACRL projects at the University of Illinois Library Research Center, doing the ACRL statistics and the salary survey for ACRL ALA. When the ARL job to do something similar for ARL came about, we're talking about 1994 now. And yeah, that's what brought me to ARL.
Okay. Well, wow, that's just amazing. And you forgot to mention that you have your PhD, and then you also you hail from Urbana.
The
uh,
University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign. Yes,
Champagne.
that's when I was working, as I said, at the Library Research Center, and uh, I started my PhD, and it took me forever to finish it, but I did finish it. And thanks some people who are familiar with the University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign know that Professor Linda Smith is a big legacy in that school, and thanks
Mm.
to her, yes, she
Oh,
was
that's
my
cool.
advisor, and
Okay.
we did a festival for her and presented it a year ago. Yeah.
Well, over the time researching for my book and writing it, I constantly was looking up universities that were pioneers in the development of AI, which organizations, and the University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign was constantly appearing as like one of the main universities that played an important role in research with the development side of it. And then I was really surprised. Like I didn't know much about the university, and when I saw how large and influential the library program is, I was kind of blown away. Like wow. So when I saw that that was where you come from, I was like, hey,
Well, I do want
pretty
actually
cool.
to mention a kind of classic of Linda Smith's way back when she conducted research on the work of Vannevar Bush and the concept of the Memex machine. She was
Okay.
one of the first people.
And who is she?
Linda Smith, my advisor
Yes. Okay.
at Illinois,
While you were there. Yeah.
while I was there. Yeah, Vannevar Bush's article, As We May Think, a 1945 article, she she brought that forward and sort of talked about the implications of
Mm.
that research for the library field. So yeah, these are some of the classics way back.
Now, now one of my questions, and I don't know if you kind of just answered this, but um, the my podcast is called For the Love of Libraries, and one of my first questions is if you could share a memory of a librarian that
Well,
influenced you.
yeah, and actually, of course, Linda Smith is one of them. But when you shared the questions with me before, and I had written down in my notes someone else that it
Yeah,
was
yeah.
actually the first American librarian that influenced me when I was in Greece still,
Okay.
and before coming to the U.S. Evelina Smith is her name. She's not around anymore. She was at Kent State University, the director at the Trample campus, and she came to Aristotle University in Thessaloniki, Greece, where I was, I graduated from, and I was applying for graduate studies, and library science was one of the fields in the Fulbright scholarship track that I had applied. So I
Okay.
went to find this woman, and I ended up kind of working with her for a few months before I came to the US. At that time, she was this very dominant African American woman that had had been there for a few months already, and she had this vision about how the library can improve. The cataloging was still, very old fashioned at that time. So she was advocating for bringing OCLC. So I helped her translate the proposal of what OCLC cataloging could do for Greek academic libraries.
Mm,
And it did happen. So
okay.
yeah, definitely Evelina Smith from Kent State University, Trample campus. Yeah, big
Okay.
influence in
Oh,
my life.
that's awesome. Thank you so much. All right, let's tell us about whatever AI topics you're most passionate or interested about. Like what's really interesting to you?
Um, yeah, the ethical issues around using AI, I think, is probably foremost. And I had the opportunity to do a, a little article in the Library Assessment Conference. I collaborated with Leo Law, who's going to be another speaker in your series, and he's a lot more prolific and active on the latest trends about AI and how to train librarians around AI. In that piece and, the proceedings are available and the paper is available in the Library Assessment Conference. We try to make a distinction about AI assisted assessment and AI driven assessment.
Hmm.
And we basically said we are still in the AI assisted assessment phase because, uh, um, right now a lot of the AI has the ability to summarize large bodies of text,
Hmm.
basically, very effectively. We haven't reached yet, I think, the stage where AI can have more, well, AI can initiate and hallucinate sometimes, but AI, there is another stage of development in the AI tools that hasn't been realized yet. And that's what we were trying to, that's kind of what we try to describe in the paper, as well as it's a conceptual paper. And in that paper, we did talk a little bit about the ethical considerations for
Hmm.
using AI in library assessment and evaluation and research. The ethical uses of the data
Hmm.
in AI training, the algorithmic biases that we can have, and fairness issues about
Hmm.
how AI may present and interpret things, issues around accountability and control. Um, we believe that humans have at least some responsibility and ethical judgment, even when they are miscalculating and they are making mistakes.
Hmm.
Um, I, in some ways, I believe as a society, we are more readily accepting human errors rather than machine errors.
Yeah. So, wait, in other words, we're more critical when we see any kind of errors from generative AI compared to like
And we should
what?
be, and
Yeah, we should
and
be.
we should be. Um,
Hmm.
um, because these are tools to be used by,
Hmm.
for by humans, and uh, you know, we definitely, I think, have a few ways to go to
Right.
to to
Right.
reach the stage where, um, our trust, our comfort, um, with the
I.
transparency and explainability AI
Mhm.
tools offer.
It makes me think of another question. It makes me wonder. I mean, we are, all the problems that came out right away in the first year or so after ChatGPT was released. I mean, all the other models came out and everything, and there was so much, and there still is so much attention to the problems like hallucinations, bias. Like this, so many of these issues. So what I've seen now is so much attention to fix these problems. The models like are really, really addressing it, and they've gotten better. They're not perfect, but I don't
Mhm.
know if you remember, but there were hallucinations all the time. You could really hardly
Yes.
trust anything that you read from it. It's like, oh, this is
Yeah.
almost a joke. It was really cool and amazing, but you were just like, oh, and we are all librarians everywhere is like, oh, you better make sure you check the sources it gives you and all this and double check and all that. And we still have to do that. But man, I can't believe how quickly and how accurately the improvements made. And it just makes me wonder, like, if things keep progressing that way, uh, will we ever get to a point where we feel more confident in AI generated content that is less biased and less incorrect compared to the things that we read from humans? I don't know. I mean, it sounds like it could be a very offensive question to some people, but I'm just wondering too, you think we'll ever get to that?
I think we always have to do some level of verification for important decisions. I was chatting
Hmm.
with a cousin of mine. He's a pathologist, right? And
Okay.
he is saying, some of the diagnostic methods, they can get you pretty close to what an expert does, but then maybe we have a responsibility to be even more experts. You see what I mean? To
Yeah.
be able to review that expert information we're getting from the machine and verify its validity and reliability in some auditing process. And again, it depends on the level of importance of the
Right,
decisions,
right. Yeah, that was one thing I remember learning pretty quickly. Like, you know, when you're engaging with a large language model to it's good to ask it questions that you have a strong knowledge and understanding about so you can gauge how well it does and everything, but not to like, if you're dealing with a medical emergency, don't, rely on the information that you read from it, like
at least not only on that.
right.
And it's one thing to be in a meeting and to get the minutes of a meeting that you attended,
Mm-hmm.
and you have a memory of the interactions,
Mm-hmm.
and you have the ability to say, yeah, this is a pretty good version of the minutes, even if it's not the exact same minutes that another human would have written or another machine would have produced.
Mm-hmm.
um, that's one level of decision making, of
Right.
trusting information. And life and death decisions is the other level.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just yesterday I recorded another interview, and within, I don't know, I want to say it was 10 or 15 minutes, I got an email from Zoom with the AI companion that summarized our meeting, and I was like, all right, and I already seen that with other interviews that I had done, but this time I decided to really like read through it carefully because it was so fresh in my mind. So I read through it all, and I couldn't find any mistakes, and I
Yeah,
was
seems
I
pretty
was just like,
good
holy cow,
representation
yeah,
of truth.
pretty
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
crazy, but all
So,
right.
so one of the way I got interested in all of this, just to, of course, I was seeing in my social media threads, people generating images, and David Lankis was producing some things, interesting things in the Facebook threads, and then ARL came with a very thoughtful report, I thought, of what's happening in the field, and developing. Let me actually find. I wanted to, and I was discussing this. Leolo was involved in that effort. ARLC and AI scenarios, AI influenced futures. So there were
Mm,
4 potential scenarios described there.
mm,
Democratized and socially integrated AI is a utopian scenario where we constantly build AI tools and collaborate for the benefit of humanity,
mm,
fostering equity and doing good. So that's one scenario. Consumer oriented AI focused on education and entertainment is a personalized AI scenario where we become consumers of a hyper personalized education and
mm-hmm,
entertainment system with immersive
mm-hmm,
interactive experiences. And that's the second scenario. Laissez-faire, laissez-faire AI, proceed with caution, prioritize speed and innovation over importance of critical thinking, discern
mm,
fact from fiction. It's not just about being bombarded with information, but navigating the information universe. Um, and the fourth scenario, autonomous AI, where we abandon all hope from um, being a research assistant to becoming a researcher, the AI itself,
mm,
and leading the charge with minimal human involvement.
mm,
Um, so all 4 scenarios are very well described in this
mm,
thoughtfully produced report that convened experts and discussed them.
mm,
And then as I was chatting about this report, as I said, with Leolo, he took the report and fed it in Notebook LM,
mm-hmm.
and that produced a 15-minute podcast
Uh-huh.
that
Yep.
is really engaging,
Accurate,
and
probably. Did it do a
accurate,
good job? Yeah,
and he
okay.
did a
Yeah.
good job, and
Hmm.
he shared it with me, and I'm like, oh my God, at that point I said, let's do a paper for the library assessment conference. So
Hmm.
that's what led to that.
Okay. Oh,
And
I
I am
see.
actually using the 15-minute podcast to help librarians and libraries think about the future, um, when they are developing their strategy. I mean, there are other readings I
Hmm.
give, more lengthy reports, but I think almost everybody can watch that 15-minute podcast very quickly as they are thinking about their future.
Um, well, Notebook LM, I just talked about it too with a recent interview as well. And one thing I didn't mention that I mean I started playing around with it. Let's see, I think it was December of 2024, and one of my best friends from Colorado. I live in St. Louis now, so my friend from Colorado that I taught with, he was telling me about how he was using it with his middle school daughter to learn and to do research and to create her project, whatever her project was. But yeah, they fed in all this research that they did, this information, and then and it made the podcast. This is right after it was able to do the podcast piece to it, and I think at that time, the the quality of the audio voice was a little rougher than it is right now. And now it's just, I mean, the improvements in the fluctuation in tone and human-like sound of the podcasters, if you will, it's pretty unbelievable.
And I think
And
if anybody lacks self-confidence, you should feed your CV in Notebook LM and listen to a podcast about
Oh,
yourself.
that's so funny. Oh yeah, I have two like fake people talk about how great your experiences have been. That's funny. Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
All right, let's touch on research. Now, your background is strong in research. Can you help we have a lot of listeners maybe that including me that have not been in touch with the academic world of research since my academic days. Um,
Yeah.
so fill us in about what that world is like as an academic researcher, and then any kind of insights about the advent of generative AI and all this, the changes and threatens and like the good and the bad to it. Like, what are your thoughts and experiences or background?
Yeah, and we do touch a little bit on that in the paper, but I do have a little bit more experience, using some large language models with on research projects these days, since the paper was written. Um, so we have to remember that the critical element in any research project is your research question. Okay, and
Mm-hmm.
that kind of you need to be, thinking about it clearly and articulate it in a way that guides you in terms of the methods. The methods are stemming are not the primary thing. They are the the tools you will use to answer your research question. And depending on what your research question is, you may need to be using AI tools or not,
Okay.
or you may find it useful to use AI tools, not.
Mm. Well, yeah, the inquiry process is, I mean, it's just so important in learning in general, and then, the integrating the inquiry process with AI tools is just a completely different experience, and one that we haven't been able to ever have before,
Well,
before.
we've used automation, tools that help us do analysis for many years now. We have survey data. We've had SPSS and SAS for the last 30, 40 years, uh, you know, to do statistical analysis. We've had a large corpus of text data and language, uh, you know, large quantity of language. And we used, NVivo and Atlas TI. and, to do qualitative analysis. So the tools, technical tools, computer-based tools, computer-assisted research tools have been there for us.
Hmm.
Whether you are going to use SPSS or Atlas TI or NVivo or, SAS, again, it depends on your research question.
Mm. Right,
Um,
right. Well,
so, mhm.
I mean, I think that's a great segue into the concept of generative AI versus narrow AI, because I mean, AI has been around for so long. We've been using it for the longest time without realizing it. Like our search, when we search on something for Google or suggestions that we get for videos on YouTube or in social media, the things that's all AI, but
The recommended,
the
the
recommendation,
recommendations. Yeah, it's some form of,
yeah, it's
slower based AI. The
yeah,
big difference is that the new tools, the large language model, can process even larger amounts of data.
right.
But at the same time, as I'm finding out with some of the projects I'm doing, they have their limitations, right? Um, and I do have the paid subscription model of ChatGPT. I was trying to see if it can summarize what a set of questions are about. And, I had, more than 20,000 questions
Holy cow.
that over a number of couple of different years.
Hmm.
Um, it bogged down.
Too
Couldn't tell
much.
me any
Yeah, yeah.
too much language, even for the large
Yeah,
language
right.
models.
Yes.
So I had to figure out kind of, what's the the point where it will give me meaningful information.
Hmm.
And it ended up being around 600 questions at a
Okay.
time for,
Okay.
think of a reasonable question text, one or two sentences, right?
Hmm.
And so and basically it helps actually with the kind of validation of the themes, because um, in statistical research we talk about sampling and taking samples, and
Hmm.
if you have multiple then samples with different results, you get um, kind of, and you summarize all your different samples, you get better, more confidence that you're getting closer to reality, to
Hmm.
truth. So in with this approach of, feeding smaller chunks of questions at a time, you get a sort of thematic summary, and then you feed another one and you can see kind of similarities and differences, but then you are seeing certain patterns and certain themes reemerging. And when you've done that over multiple samples, 50 or 100 samples, um, your confidence in the themes that are emerging is
Mm.
increasing,
Right,
basically.
right, right.
Yeah.
Well, one of the promises that AI, brings, or the hope that I hear all the time from like international experts that I, watch on YouTube and read about and everything is the ability to process the increasing abilities that they're able to process more and more information. I remember it was probably in the beginning of 2024 when Google announced that their token window increased to, I think at first it increased to 1 million tokens. So anyone that's listening that don't know, a token is a representation of data, and it's a little bit one token is a little bit less than one word. So when Google announced that the large language model was able to process 1 million tokens, that's about 700 or 800,000 words, like the amount of data that it could process. Now, just because it can do that doesn't mean that that's instantly available for everyone, and there's limitations to that. But um, then
But
it wasn't
let me tell you on the limitation side, I was another thing I did with some interview data I had. I wanted to select quotes around certain themes.
codes,
So quotations.
quotations. Yeah. Okay.
And I asked, ChatGPT, can you give me some quotations from the corpus of data, I'm giving you around this theme. And it did give me some, but then I actually verified them, always verify. Very good
Right.
researcher
Yeah.
should verify.
Right.
And it was hallucinating. The
Mm.
quotation wasn't a real
Yeah.
quotation.
Hmm.
And I'm like, what?
Yep.
But I did search. Some were real, some were not real,
Mm.
interestingly enough.
See, one of the things that I'm not too sure about, I'm gonna check something here. Um, so part of the challenge consumers have, everyone, the average person, is that these companies that create different AI tools, they publish new models so fast, it's hard to keep track of which models are good at, which ones you're supposed to use. I couldn't even remember. I took a peek. I'm looking right now at my ChatGPT, and I pay the $20 a month thing, and I use mostly GPT-4o. It says great for most tasks. Underneath that is O3, which is advanced reasoning. And then there's O4 mini, fastest at advanced reasoning. And then there's O4 high. Oh, wait, O4 mini high, great at coding and visual reasoning. And then underneath that, there's a link for three more models that it's insane at how many different variations of models there are and what they can all do.
Yeah.
And then if that isn't enough, I also think that there's an element of throttling. And by that, I mean like, they have all these servers that are running to be able to process everyone's request. That's known as inferencing. And um, I am convinced that they have structures in place to handle large volumes of people constantly asking tough questions. So and this is just my theory. I have no way to prove this or no, I haven't really heard anyone address this yet, but um, there's got to be ways like on a Saturday afternoon when a lot of people, or maybe it's a Monday morning, there's got to be different times of the week where a lot more people are using it, that it probably influences its ability to answer correctly, and especially depending on which model you're using. I just think that's a variable that makes it hard to really understand what they can do and what they can't do. And then if that isn't enough, I also think that oh, I forgot what I was going to say now. Shoot, there was one more point, but it's just
Well, there is
complicated.
it is, but at the same time, it does make certain things possible for us. There was a small project I was doing for IFLA, the International Federation for Library Associations, on building stronger library associations. Actually, it's an IFLA report. You can look at it. But one of the things we did is a survey, and it was a kind of a very specific budget, only 4-month project. We didn't have a lot of resources, um, but when we launched the survey in English, we realized that a lot of the Spanish speaking world and a lot of the French speaking world
Mhm.
that were part of our interviews, and probably even if we had more time, we should have considered more languages. They were requesting that we launch the survey in Spanish
Mhm.
and French, and for a very small project with a limited budget and limited resources, that would not have been possible. But it was possible because we got a quick translation from
Mhm.
ChatGPT. We were able
Mhm.
to quickly verify the translation with the contacts we had. We did some small tweaks, um, but it
Mhm.
was 90, 96, 97% of what we
Mhm.
got as a translation was usable.
And see, it's just I love hearing that because you also reminded me of the importance of AI literacy. Like all of us, all of society, trying to do our best to learn about what is possible. I mean, the fact that you guys are becoming literate, like the fact that you knew that ChatGPT could do that. There's still a lot of people that have never even used any large language models, and I'm constantly surprised at when I talk to people and ask them kind of probing questions. I'm constantly surprised to find out how maybe their fear or their, being afraid of or upset about AI causes them to not want to deal with it. And um, but yeah, it's a tricky thing to be able to like juggle that, but learning and understanding kind of at least as much as you can about what it is or how it might work is
I would
important.
say start with an area where you are the expert.
Mm,
Or
mhm.
you're the expert on your CV. Feed your CV in Notebook LM, and
Right, right, right.
get to listen to it, right?
Yes.
You'll be able to judge whether
Hmm.
the quality of what you're getting is good or
Yes.
not.
Yeah.
And yeah, start with the things um well, and even when you are asking it to do new things, like we hadn't used it for a translation before, we weren't sure what we are getting.
Hmm.
um have a way to verify. We
Yes.
had a
Yep.
Spanish speaking expert who could verify for us
Mm,
the quality of the Spanish language translation we were getting, and the same with the French, for example. Yeah, so start in an area you are the expert, so you
mm.
feel you have the full control of it, and then as you go to the next step, make sure you kind of build verification steps.
Yeah.
um,
Yep. That's great. Okay, I have one more question for you. What advice might you give? Okay, I have two more questions. The second last question is, what advice might you give a new librarian, someone that's just entering the field or considering entering the field, and related to like AI and everything? What would be your advice?
um, I mean, librarians, n- new librarians enter the field because they are excited about information. And I hope this excitement will lead you to engaging with the tools. But at the end of the day, always remember, what is the larger purpose you're trying to serve? Well, if you're a researcher librarian, what is your question you are trying to answer? If you're a public um, library librarian who's getting someone coming to the field to the desk and wants some help, what is it you are trying to do? What is the purpose of your interaction? Focus on that. And then
Mm,
you'll figure out, is it, do you need to guide this person to the catalog? Do you need to guide them to some new fancy audio book? Or do you need to tell them more about, this database or that database? Or do you need to explain to them, how the Google search engine works? Or is it something that where you need to show them, there's also, this
right,
AI
right.
engine you can feed your question to.
So, I mean,
So focus on your
yeah.
purpose.
I mean, it's perfect because I think, especially the first year or two in librarianship can be overwhelming, and you can easily get pulled and distracted into so many different things that can leave you feeling like, okay, what am I doing and why am I here? But you're right.
And if
You
you're
think
in a
back to the
school
purpose.
library, I think, let your students guide you a little bit. You are
Yeah.
as much a mentor to them as they may be mentoring you.
Yeah. Right.
One of the great things in education is, white teachers, and I was a teacher at some point in my life. You want to learn and share knowledge you have with others, right? But you also get so much satisfaction learning from them.
Yeah.
And I think with AI in our future, there is a lot more learning we will be doing from
Hmm.
the younger generation.
Yeah, that's right. That's for sure. And from AI, I mean, it's a great point. Okay, last question. How can people find you? Tell us a little bit about what do you offer, and can you help people with things, and how do they find you?
Yeah, QualityMetrics LLC.com is the website. And Martha Kyrillidou, anybody with this last name probably is a relative of mine, and not many in the English speaking world, but um, it's a large family that I have back in Greece. I'm a Marylander, outside Washington, D.C. Yeah, that's people
And
can
what
find me.
services, what do you offer services or what do
Strategic
you?
planning, assessment, evaluation.
Okay.
I've worked with state library agencies quite a bit, as well as working with architects and in renovation projects, some new buildings when
Hmm.
they want to do research on user experience, community needs and trends. And right now, actually, I mentioned the IFLA project. It was kind of an evaluation and developing a taxonomy for association capacities. I'm involved in a couple of strategic planning projects. Yeah, anything around planning, whether it's infrastructure, whether it's your strategy, and anything around evaluation.